Hello, Red Nail Energy listeners. This is Mikhail, and I have been so looking forward to this conversation. Today, I have with me Alex Rutke. She's the founder of City Mouse, a community-driven lifestyle brand born from the belief that it is never too late to begin again. After ditching the pressure of perfect timelines and traditional definitions of success, Alex leaned into reinvention and built something magnetic. Whether it's fashion, friendship, or finding your footing in your 30s and beyond, she reminds us that growth does not expire, and sometimes getting, quote, off track is exactly what gets you where you were always meant to be. Welcome to the pod, Alex.
Thank you. What an introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I just have to share with listeners because, again, I feel like there's so many synchronicities and life is just wild and what it brings into your life. But personally, I have been in a season of expansion where I've really been calling in examples for me of people that are mid 30s and beyond that are telling us, like, you're not too late. The ship to happiness did not sail off without you. And I just happened to stumble across the perfect TikTok you'd posted that was essentially like a list of things that you've done in your life that reminded us all that it's never too late, and like founding a new company in your 40s or starting motherhood or whatever it may be. And so I'm just excited to kind of dive in with you, not only for listeners to get a chance, but even just for me. I feel like every time I see those expanders, I'm like, more of this, more of this. Like, I just need, we surround ourselves with what we end up finding. So yeah, I'm very excited.
I agree. I need it too.
Awesome. Well, we are right where we're meant to be then, as always. Well, I'd love to kind of back up a little bit and hear more about your background. I know you do professional makeup in New York City, and then kind of what was the segue to entrepreneurship in product-driven companies that you've started?
Sure. Well, I moved to New York in 2004 after dropping out of art school. I said I wanted to work in film and television and didn't know how that was going to happen, but luckily I wound up networking my way into the film and TV world. It took many years, but along the way, I always had that kind of extra creative drive where I like to create, I like to build. I've always been that way. And I started a product-based business in 2011 called Arch Tags, and they were decals for the soles of high-heeled shoes. So that was my first foray into entrepreneurship. And it was like really, we hit the ground running with that. I didn't know what I was doing. It was trial by fire. Everything, was crazy. I got a wholesale order within the first week. I had no idea how to manage those things. And, eventually like the company I grew out of it, I guess, in a sense, and moved on to a couple other product-based businesses in jewelry, some in clothing. And then I wound up finally here with City Mouse, which was probably around my sixth business, I think.
Wow, amazing. And I know you've spoken kind of outwardly about just starting before you're ready. Everything is not going to be perfect. For anyone listening that maybe has that kind of like whisper or inkling of like, I should be doing this, can you just speak to that and what your process has looked like in just like figuring it out as you go rather than waiting for all the circumstances to be exactly perfect?
Sure. Yeah, I think, that is my biggest piece of advice and something I always try to tell people, that perfection is the enemy when you just want to get the momentum going. It's like you learn very quickly once you get the ball rolling and you learn about your customers and you learn about the business, and it's the best learning experience. And I think a lot of people are their own worst enemy with thinking that they have to have all their ducks in a row to start. And yes, you do have to set up certain systems, right, to start off to be successful, but nothing has to be perfect. Like, I'm still 2.5 years in, and I'm still adjusting and still learning and evolving within this business. So that's you have to give yourself grace in the beginning, and it's better just to go and get moving, get the momentum.
Absolutely. I've been fortunate enough to be at a creator conference we host here in Boise the last 2 years. And the one theme that I find amongst everyone that's like successful, I mean, what does that word even mean, but would be considered successful in maybe business ownership, entrepreneurship, is that it's like the difference between the people that become successful or don't is literally just doing it. And everyone starts in that same space. And I've really had to move beyond my own imposter syndrome in that of like, you're new at something, and if you want to be good at something, you have to be new at it first. And so it's great to be in spaces where people are at all different areas of business than you are, and also use those people that are so far beyond, rather than like, well, they're already doing it, so how could I? Or using it as comparison, instead being like, this is what's possible, and they were once where I am, so I just have to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all think everybody has it figured out. And I used to think that too. I mean, this is such a silly example, but when I started a product-based business, I was like, well, how am I ever going to scale? Like, I don't even know how to print multiple shipping labels. Like I had to like try to figure out what these people were doing in order, on their journey of becoming successful, and everything's there for you. It comes at the right time.
Yeah, it's so true. And then for City Mouse in particular, how did that idea kind of start? And then what's been the last few years of growth and kind of exploration you've had with that?
Okay, so the pandemic, I had my son during the pandemic. I feel like this is an important part of the story that I have to talk about. We'll probably get into it a little bit later too, but I had my son in February of 2020. Then the world shut down like less than a month later. And then I was diagnosed with cancer, and I had this whole big internal journey going through that. And, we were inside a lot. I was on my computer a lot. I was bored. I was working on this company on Etsy as a print on demand company. And I thought it was going to be my last foray into entrepreneurship. I was like, I don't have to hold any inventory. This is the best business for me. I'm never going to have a product-based business again. And the world opened back up, and we went to dinner one night, and my son was like 1.5 years, and I was so excited to use a purse in my closet that I hadn't touched in, however long. And I couldn't fit anything I needed into this purse for my son. And I thought, well, wait, I'm going to a nice dinner. I look cute. Why would I ever carry an ugly diaper bag, especially a huge one? Like, I need something that's functional as a purse, but also works for me as a mom now. And that's really when the idea was born. And on the walk home from dinner that night, I remember we were walking along Central Park and pushing the stroller. And I said to my husband, I have an idea for a business, and it's going to be called City Mouse, because that's what I am. I'm a city mouse, not a country mouse. And it's cute because it's a nod to a children's story. And that was it. And that's always been, I don't know if that's what it's like for you too with a business. It feels very aligned with my gut. It feels like that's the answer. That's what I have. I'm moving forward with it, and everything else will fall into place. And it did.
Absolutely. I think that intuition is peace, and fear and anxiety are what are like the doubting beliefs and the things that come in, or the things that try to pull you from that intuition. But I think that when you have that, it's like a knowing. You're just like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And I actually feel like so chill and calm. And I don't know a million aspects of like the A to Z, but I just feel this like deep knowing that this is what I'm going to be doing. And how often do we have those gifts of like a little download or an intuition or a feeling, and we just push right past it and we just ignore it? And so it's really cool to hear about you bringing it to fruition and like seeing that intuition through.
I love that you referred to it that way, because I kept thinking the visual that I was getting in my head as this was going, because in the back of my mind, I said, I never wanted to do this again. I don't want to make an investment. I'm scared to spend money on something. What if it fails? What if it fails? But I got on some type of invisible treadmill, and I let it take, it was like being at the airport when you're on that little like walkway that pulls you along. I got on it and I went, and it was like the universe took me and pushed me. Every single thing I needed, what I found along that way, and I let go and I surrendered. And that was a really big deal. And that was the main difference between this company and anything else I've ever done. It felt aligned.
Yes. And when you create space for the intuition and then the success and the blessings and the gifts and all of those things to come through, it's remarkable the ways in which they'll come through. And then on the flip side of the coin, it's remarkable how when you are white knuckling everything, honey, nothing is going to come through. And it's kind of this thing of like, I've really been listening and consuming a lot lately about that surrender moment. And I think a lot of people see it as like giving up, but it's not. It's just giving up control. You just aren't trying to control. And then it's amazing because it kind of feels easy if you let it feel easy. So
it's amazing. I love that you're a little woo-woo like me, because it's like
so woo-woo.
But it's been so incredible to acknowledge the parts of this. It is the surrender. It is the letting go of control. And having cancer taught me those things, and having a child taught me those things. And that really only helped my business become what it is right now, and the most successful it's been.
Yeah. To dive a little bit deeper into that, I also saw a response you'd had when somebody kind of said that, you know, founders or highly successful people have often experienced trauma. And in that, you spoke to not only having cancer yourself, but losing your mom. Maybe was it about 7 years prior to your diagnosis, or I want to say maybe around.
I lost her in 2013.
Okay. Yeah. And then 2020, yes. Can you just talk a little bit on that and kind of what that experience led you to, and then maybe the feeling as well of now having been diagnosed yourself and kind of navigating that personally?
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, losing a parent, especially a mother, is a huge, like, it feels like the rug's pulled out from under you. It's an immense loss, something that I couldn't quite comprehend. I always told my husband, I said, I didn't know what heartbreak felt like. Like, I didn't know it was that physical sensation. And I remember feeling that in my world just falling apart and crying every day for a year, and like deep, deep devastation. But also a lot of growth and leaning into therapy and really feeling all of the pain and the emotions. But then going through it myself was such a stark contrast to losing her. Obviously, I thought when I was diagnosed, my life was over. And it was really crazy because I had just brought life into the world, and like I was terrified, and all I wanted was control. All I wanted was somebody to reassure me and tell me like I was going to make it and I was going to get through to the other side. But those experiences shook me in a way, like, I mean, it wound up being a gift. And I hated at the time when people would say, there's going to be something positive that comes from this. I was like, you're toxic positivity. I don't want it. I'm like in hell. And like, it's a nightmare, and nobody should have to go through this. But now, thank God, I've come out on the other side and I'm healthy. 5 years this year. It has been a gift because it has rearranged my world, and I've let go of the idea that I have to exist to make somebody else happy, that my time needs to be spent the way somebody else determines it needs to be spent. And I know my time is finite in a way that a lot of other people who haven't experienced like a deep trauma don't. So it is a gift, because now I'm making the most of my time in my life.
Yeah, it's such a perspective shift. I unexpectedly lost my dad in 2015, and there's so many moments where I'm worrying about something so dumb. It's okay, we can just cry together. I'm worried about something so dumb. And like, as almost like masochistic as it sounds, I just go back to exactly where I was standing when I got that phone call. And I remind myself, like, this doesn't fucking matter. Nothing that I'm sitting here, like, does this person like me? Did I say something weird? Did I do something dumb? Was that video that I put out of myself on social media going to be seen by someone that's going to make fun of me? Like, it makes you realize that if our world and life on this earth ended tomorrow, those are not the things that people are going to be talking about. And instead, like, how can we align ourselves with the things that actually matter, or just give ourselves peace in that moment? I mean, that's one of the biggest things I think that we can gift ourselves, is not worrying and spiraling in our mind as often as we're invited to.
Yeah. I think a lot of my life was spent as a people pleaser, being a prisoner in my own mind to other people's expectations of me. And it is kind of a beautiful thing that comes with age also, you know, that it's freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is. And it's so important in itself. I think that, as you said, like, I'm living a nightmare. I want to punch somebody in the face that is like, everything happens for a reason, or like, you're going to learn from this, whatever. The amount of things I've learned not to say to somebody going through grief, having navigated it myself. Yep. And literally now I'm just like, hey, so this sucks. I'll sit with you. Like, yep. I'll be here for you. There's nothing else that is important for me to like fix or do or say. Is there anything from your experience that was either like really helpful or sort of like harmful or damaging for listeners that are helping somebody maybe navigate a loss?
I love that you just asked me this, because it's something I think about quite often, and it's a video topic I've wanted to make, but I didn't know how it fit into my brand. So anyway, I'm happy to have the opportunity to talk about it. But yes, I think like when I was going through my experience, going through this dark time, was I just wanted what you said, which was what people just to show up, not tell me it was this or that, not tell me it's for a reason, not tell me like I can manifest my way out of a disease that I didn't cause. Like, all of those things were really, really harmful. Mm-hmm. So just showing up, being present, asking, how can I help you? Or just taking charge and making decisions, talking to a partner if you have one, and taking things off your plate. You know, those were the most helpful things in my specific scenario. I had friends drop off food. I had friends watch my son. I mean, I was inundated with the most incredible support, which I will never forget. Like, and of course I had a handful of people that were like, I wrote a post when I first got diagnosed. I said, don't you dare tell me that this is like happening to me for a reason. And I said, don't feel bad for me because I'm
Mhm.
going to get through this.
Mhm.
And I just want that, like, you have to ask for what you want to.
Mhm. Yeah, you do. And then, as you said, I think that sometimes coming to people or even sending the text, probably to check the box for yourself, understandably, of let me know if I can do anything, but you're kind of from afar and whatever, is one more question to answer when you're already in the situation of like, I can't wash my socks and underwear. Like, I don't, you know. And
Yeah.
so I think that sometimes, like, even if it is something that seems seemingly small, I would say just like doing it, acting in the way that you can. And it doesn't have to be like a large monetary thing. As you said, it could be like making a home cooked meal and dropping it off, or just like finding out when their trash day is and going and taking the trash cans out for them. Something that is like one less thing. And it is those little things where when you've lost a parent, it's like, I'm now a toddler again and I've been abandoned, and like, where's my mom or where's my dad? Like, how do I navigate this? And so those little things where somebody's like got your back, you're just like, okay, it takes this village. And
Yep.
like, I might actually be okay because of this support system that
Yep.
is rallying around me. And I'm sure with your diagnosis, it was similar too, of just like feeling seen and thought of
Yes.
when you had nothing left to pour from in your cup, nothing left to give, and people were just like showing up anyway.
I've never been so grateful for, and I remember every single person that sent a text, that checked in, that answered the phone when I was spiraling. Like, every single thing just mattered so much more. And now it's just given me even more, I didn't know how to show up for people before this. Like, it is, you're just like, what can I do? Like, I don't know what to do, but it is just like, take charge and try to just take things off their plate.
Mhm.
But I'm a better friend. And
Mhm.
I'm a better person now because of this experience, because I know how a lot of people who have kids like don't know how to be there for somebody who's had kids, and until you have your own kids. And it's all like, you got to give people grace too. It's like a lot of people didn't check in with me and they feel very guilty, but I'm like, listen, you didn't know and you're here now, and that's what matters. And you just have to be kind to one another. It's just like, we're all doing our best.
Absolutely. Yes, we are. And, we all kind of, there's a Haitian proverb I love, Petit Petit n'a arrivé, that is little by little, we all arrive. And I try to remind myself of that too, when I try to use myself as the measuring stick for like, I would do this so differently, or like, I would be showing up for myself in this way. I even had a conversation with one of my best friends about that, of like this expectation I'd created up in my mind for the way in which these people were going to show up and do the thing. And it's like, that was living in my brain and nowhere else. And so kind of giving ourselves grace, as you've said, and then also extending that outward where we can, because it is difficult. And like, I feel like a super hero in being able to show up for people in grief, because it doesn't make me flinch. Like, when somebody's going through an unimaginable loss, I'm like, I will just like sit with you in it so you don't have to sit alone. But I think that if you haven't navigated grief and that feeling of just like, my heart is shattered and it's physical at this point, it can be really uncomfortable, and it can be really, and to be honest with you, those aren't really the people I'd probably want in my space, that are like, like, I don't know what to do with you,
Yeah,
So.
you're worried about their uncomfort when you're dealing with so much of your own. It's either discomfort. It's like, it's important to be around people who get it.
Yeah. And then, are you comfortable sharing for your diagnosis kind of like how you were diagnosed? Like, if it was like pre-screening, if there's anything you'd recommend for listeners when it comes to ways to prevent or screen early?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with a very rare type of cancer. I had a lump in my thigh that I thought was from an injury. I had like heard a pop in my leg a couple years before. Did yoga. I was like hugely active, lots of yoga, lots of working out, and super healthy. And I remember feeling this lump one day when I was stretching, feeling like my instinct, and this is why you're supposed to listen to it, said it's a tumor. And I was like, no, I'm just being paranoid. My mom died of cancer. This is why I feel this way. I went to a couple orthopedic doctors. They thought it was scar tissue. They recommended an MRI. I kind of brushed it off because nobody seemed concerned. I didn't feel like paying $1,000 deductible. That was where I was financially at the time. And like, I just didn't, think it was that big a deal. And then after I had my son, I started having weird symptoms. Like, right before he was born, I was diagnosed with anemia, which I'd never had. I eat meat, not a ton of it, but they were like, yeah, maybe it's from the pregnancy. I'm getting iron infusions at the end of it. I have him. I start having night sweats, not uncommon postpartum. I start losing weight, like a lot of weight, like really quick. Also kind of strange, but nobody was that concerned. And then I saw that after I lost all this weight, that the tumor, you could see what was, then diagnosed as the tumor outside of my leg, and I could never see it. So we were like, it grew, or I lost a lot of weight. It's one or the other. And I got on a phone call with the doctor. He said, come in and get an MRI, but he didn't scare me. Which is probably why I went, and I got it. And he called and said it was a tumor. It was a sports medicine doctor, so he didn't even know what he was looking at. He said, you have to go to Sloan. So I did, thank God. One of the few blessings of the pandemic was that the doctors that normally are very fully booked weren't. So I was able to get into the chief of the department who, formally diagnosed me with a sarcoma. And a sarcoma, there's like 75 subtypes, and they're soft tissue cancers. They can be large, they can be tiny. They are usually pretty aggressive, and there are not a lot of treatments that work to cure them besides a full removal. So I had that. It's a scary diagnosis. It's not like, mine thankfully stayed localized, but they made me do all of the treatments they would make anybody else do if it had spread. So I did full chemo, and I did full radiation, and I had a 10-hour surgery. Thank God I have my leg, because it was a limb sparing surgery. And yeah, I would say any unmovable lumps, especially, run to the doctor, get a biopsy, do all the things. And modern medicine is incredible.
Absolutely. How old was your son at that point when you really kind of dove into the treatment?
He was like 5 months.
Oh my gosh. And had you experienced some postpartum prior? I mean, I guess you were also having all these weird symptoms, but how was your kind of like mental state, new mom, all of that when that first happened?
I definitely had like a lot of PPA after I had him, but I'm kind of like a naturally anxious person anyway. And I didn't think there was so much happening that I didn't know what was causing it. It was like either I was postpartum and anxious, or I was anxious because like my husband's working through the pandemic and I had a newborn at home, stuck in my apartment in New York City. It was like the craziest time, and then diagnosed with the cancer. So I literally don't know what was what. Like, it was a mess. It was all.
And then, sounds like it. That feeling you noted too of almost like, don't feel sorry for me. I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to, where do you think that kind of like grit came from? Or was it almost like, I have two choices and this is the side I'm choosing?
I think a lot of it came from my mom, probably. She was like that too. But I felt, and I struggle with this, like letting the softness of myself come through, and being more vulnerable. But I really just associated like pity with like, oh, you're going to die. Like, it was just like, I'm going to give up on you, and you get grief tourists, and it gets really weird. And I was just like, I want strength around me. I want love around me. And that's what I want to call it during this time.
Yeah. And then what were some of the things that you called upon, like on those hard days, or like, how did you manage keeping that attitude as you kind of went through, I'm sure, the roller coaster of everything that comes with the treatment?
I feel like my son was such a huge part of my healing. I mean, it was like this little baby, and he's happy, and like I just would be able to come home and snuggle with him after my treatments. He was the best baby. Like, I was so lucky to have a good child. I needed it. He slept really well, and he was a huge part. But I think emotionally, like, I was a disaster. Like, I don't even want to sugarcoat it. Like, I was like on the phone with my sister, like every other day saying, am I going to die? Like, is this going to kill me? Like, I needed her to repeat what the doctor said to me all the time. Like, that was kind of what helped me get through it. Just this constant reassurance of people who like were medical professionals around me that like could decipher the diagnosis and the treatment and kind of walk me through that. But yeah, no, it was dark. It was dark. I was spending my nights on the ground, balled up next to my bed, hysterically shaking.
I think it's so important to note that, because we do often hear about these, strength stories and success stories and resilience and, cancer free for X amount of years. And it's something to so celebrate. And it's also so important for anyone navigating any rung in the ladder of that like, you're not going to keep it all together. You're not just going to like get it and be like, I'm great, and I'm just going to pull up my bootstraps and because also to me, I'm like, that is avoidance and disassociation. If somebody is, because the only way through it is through you. You have to really let those feelings move. And so I think it's really important to note that. And, for anyone listening that is in navigating anything where it's like, I just have to stay strong. Sometimes breaking and letting the emotion move through you is the strongest thing you can do to then like repair and rebuild and, move forward.
What's so interesting is like that you have to feel it to heal it. I've lived by that also. And I think now post all of this, like I let myself cry a lot more. Like the emotions, I feel like maybe I would stuff them down and like I would be like, yeah, you just have to be strong and but I feel things and I let it flow through me more. And yes, that is a huge part of healing, is like the acknowledging like the trauma, and it is trauma. It's like PTSD, because when I have scans now, those same feelings come up, the same ones, and it's really hard. They call it scanxiety. And it's a serious thing because it brings you right back to that moment that you were diagnosed, and like maybe my world could come crashing down within an instant again, anytime.
Yeah. I have to say too, when you were sharing your timeline of like having knowledge of this lump prior, but you were explaining everything, and it was so certain within me that like you kind of knew about it, but hadn't really fully got the MRI, had your son, then everything came to light. In my mind, it was like, well, that's why. That's the reason. Like your son was meant to come in your life. And who knows if you had explored that prior and then been in this space of like treatment and like who knows, sometimes things can happen to your body or your reproductive or whatever. And it's just one of those things that it's like another testament and reminder that like we are where we are meant to be, and the events of our life are happening in an order that might not make sense, but it's like in hindsight you're like, oh, that does actually make sense.
So real. It is true, because maybe I wouldn't have had my son, because now I'm on the other side of it struggling. That's a whole nother like thing, is the fertility aspect. And like I had to freeze my eggs prior, and now we're in that process and it's not good. And like it's another really difficult journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. The timing is impeccable. My son did save my life.
Yeah.
And he's the reason I started my business.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like often these things in our life that again, it's kind of I don't know, it feels routine, or it feels like, well, this is just kind of what I'm doing. And then so much is often revealed because we're able to be in that state of like true unconditional love, true flow, and often like being seen and witnessed by someone. I'm sure your son knows like the most authentic, true, raw version of you that the rest of the world doesn't really get. And so of course you're going to have those thoughts and downloads and ability to really heal with that interaction too.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Another question for you that's a little bit of a painful one, I'm sure, but having a child after the loss of a parent, what are some ways that you've kind of like brought your mom into motherhood, or like let him get to know her through you? Is there anything that kind of comes to mind?
I feel like sometimes that part is really painful for me, and that my sister is so much better. She has a daughter the same age as my son, and she's so much better about working my mother into the life. And I've spoken about my mom to him, and I'm pretty like, he's 5, he's pretty like an aware child, and I don't sugarcoat a lot of life for him. And I've told him, I said, my mom died, like, and I miss her and I think about her all the time. And he asks me about life and death sometimes, and he's curious about what that means and the finality of things. And I don't know, she was a really complicated woman, and she was incredible. But we had a complicated relationship, and it wasn't always good, but the reason I'm strong is because of her. And I think about often, like, if she were here, what my life would be like, how different it would be. Maybe in some not so great ways, maybe in some amazing ways. It was hard. It wasn't so like, there was a lot of trauma there too.
Yeah, it's messy. I think that I relate so similarly with my dad and having a difficult relationship. And he was like the easiest and hardest person to love somehow in the exact same vein. And I think that there's no right answer to that question. I think being in a space in my life where I'm, I know motherhood is near, and I've frozen my eggs, and I'm considering having a child on my own in the next year. And there's aspects of that again are why I've like called in such expansion of like, just keep showing me this is possible. Just keep showing me this is the right path. But I think that sometimes we feel like there's some way that eventually it's just going to be like buttoned up with a bow on it and like, okay, I have mastered grief, or like I've fully accepted that my parent is no longer here, or whatever it may be. And it's so interesting how nuanced it is, and how like one Father's Day I'm like bawling my head off, one Father's Day I don't even feel any different, and then another Father's Day I'm like saying dead dad jokes. Like it's this total, like this whole thing where like sometimes dark humor for me is the only way. Other times I'm like, I'm a little 5-year-old and I need my mommy and daddy, so it's so interesting just to learn of other people's experience and the messiness of it. The fact that like you and your sister are so different in the way that you're choosing, and neither of them are like right or wrong. It just is.
Yeah, I relate to that so much. Like this past year, I think I didn't even acknowledge usually her death day, I call it. Usually it's a huge day for me. And this year the day just went by and I didn't even think of it. And then, like you said, it's like some days it just like on a random Tuesday in the middle of June, it like smacks you in the face and you're brought to your knees again. And it's like, yeah, grief is really wild, really wild.
It is. And I think it's such an invitation for like another area we can call in shame. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. The takeaway has been like, anytime I'm invited to like feel bad that I don't feel bad enough for me, it's March 23rd. Like when I don't feel bad enough on that day, I'm like, okay, but I feel bad enough on a lot of other days of the week or the year that just like really sneak up on me. And so I think that death and like mortality in itself is such an interesting thing, because we want to like honor the dead by living a life that they'd be proud of, but not too proud because we don't want to be too okay without them. And it's just this really interesting, again, messy kind of experience that I think the humanity in it is just that like there isn't a right or wrong way. And like we're always doing our best and learning and growing from it, but that we are not being productive by letting ourselves be bathed in that shame. It's not helpful for anyone.
No, it's not. Grief is like, I always think of it like you get handed a briefcase or a suitcase for the rest of your life when somebody dies, and you have to carry that suitcase with you everywhere you go. And some days it's heavier and it's annoying, and other days you don't even notice it's there. But it's with you always. It's part of you now. I felt like my DNA changed when my mom died. It was like a really weird experience.
Yeah, it's so true. There's moments in like writing or reflecting that I'm like, man, what I wouldn't give to go back and be that girl 1 minute before I got that phone call. Like just to be her, like the bliss, the ignorant bliss where like my problems that I thought mattered did not matter. And I was in this space, and you really are not the same after that. Like, and exactly as you said, you're carrying this suitcase with you. And like, there are times you can kind of tuck it away in the closet of a room you're in, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's there. It's not like in my face. And there's other times you're on a train with it on your lap, and like, it's the main, on the main stage. And I think it's such a universal experience that people encounter in so many different ways. But as you said, you have to feel it to heal it. And I think that has been such a great teacher for me as well, of like, one, creating room for my grief, and two, also creating the ability to close the door on it, because like you cannot be completely embodied within it always, or else, you can't move forward.
No. And isn't it like life is so much richer now, isn't it? Like all that pain, like the depths of the pain and like the sorrow that you wind up going to in those moments, like it just makes everything else like so much more beautiful and rich. Like I remember after, even just in treatment, like when I finished treatment one day, I was just making myself a coffee in the morning, and I was like, this is amazing. I was like, the fact that I can it was like the dumbest, like cooking something, like I love to cook, and that just brought me peace and joy and presence. And like, you just have so much more appreciation for like the mundane of life, because at the end, it's like, this is all you have.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like when you have the stomach flu and you're like, I would give anything to be able to just like eat a bowl of cereal right now. And I would pray to the gods of that cereal and worship that bowl of cereal because it's all I want. And it's like, at the same time, because like our life slips in, there are so many days that I forget about that. And I find myself taking things for granted, or, just going through like my little zombie way and just like not paying attention to how beautiful like everything truly is around us. But having that gift and perspective of like, being so encapsulated in loss and grief that it is the only thing you can experience physically in that moment. And to just be reminded of that sometimes. And like when I am called to be on autopilot, or I'm just like doom scrolling my life away, I'm like, this is not it. Like I begged for a day where I could feel normal. And like here I am feeling normal. And so I better make the most of it, you know?
Yeah. I still do it too, though. And I remember when my mom, because my mom's diagnosed with cancer, like she and I had this conversation about, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So it was a little bit of a different situation, right? Like she knew she was going to die maybe relatively soon. And we had a lot of conversations like, what if it wasn't a terminal diagnosis for her? What would that mean for how her life looked? Would she do things different? And we both said, like, you know what, you always kind of wind up going back to this like state of normalcy, right? It's like you do doom scroll and you do get caught up in some of the dumb BS and like the things that don't really matter. But as long as you keep finding that balance, that equilibrium, I think that's the gift that you get from those horrible experiences, is that you're able to pull yourself back to the present moment. And I envy the people that can do that without having a traumatic experience to go through, because, you know, it took some of this stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And just being able to even have the time between some of the like highs and lows and being able to find that equilibrium again. I think that the more we experience in all aspects, like the highs and the lows, I always echo that no feeling is final. And that is not only the negative ones. Like we want to believe in the depths of heartache that this won't be final, but in like the most beautiful bliss you've ever experienced as well, like that's also not final. And so I think that just having that reminder, for me at least, it lets me kind of like vacillate between those states and with more confidence, because our track record for getting through the hard things we've been handed is pretty damn good. We're still here. And so when like someone's dusty son doesn't text me back, I'm like, all right, like try me, you know. It's just like such a different experience of like what is worth my attention and energy being moved toward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to kind of like the timelines and the ways that you've learned how to rewrite society's pressure on women especially, what are some things that you could share with listeners on just like, oh no, I'm 25 and I haven't done all the things I want to do, like I must be too late, in your experience that has helped you just let go of that completely?
God, I think a lot of it is, I mean, the age has just given me so much more perspective and like wisdom of like how repetitive things are, like the cycles of your life. And you kind of hit those moments like throughout like every decade, right? It's like every decade we'll have a moment where we come to terms with where we are and we're kind of like, okay, where am I? I need to reevaluate. But it's really, for me, like what's helped me is physically feeling well. Like that makes me feel like I can do anything. And that way I don't give a flying F about what society says about how old I am, because it's how I feel. It's how I behave. That's why I said, it was like, people are like, oh, you're too old to have a kid. And I'm like, but I am like probably healthier now, post cancer, by the way, than I was in my 20s. Like I'm smarter now. I have more money now. I have more time now. I understand like what's important in life now. Like things just get better. And you can find those people and those examples of like life getting better. And you can also find those examples of people who get more miserable because they realize they haven't lived to their potential and they haven't followed their dreams, and they're, you know, angry about where they are. Mm-hmm. So you can find any example you really want. It's just, you know, you have to seek them out. I think like fuck age. I mean, it's just
truly
on how you feel. Like you got time in your 20s, man. Like I was a mess in my 20s. I was a hot mess, like drinking, drugs, partying, like all of it. And even like into when I met my husband, like he really stabilized me in terms of that. But like it really was, I look at kids in their 20s now and I'm like, they have these amazing businesses. And I'm like, oh my God. Like at some point though, you will have a come to terms with like, did I experience my 20s the way I really wanted to? So yeah, no, there's no timeline but your own.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember that.
It is. And no matter how you look at it, no matter whose life we're using as the comparison or the example, they're having the same feelings that we're having. It might just be the opposite. It's like the person that chooses to go live abroad and backpack Europe instead of going to undergrad is going to then look at the friend who just graduated college and is saying, I wish I would have studied abroad and backpacked, and say, I wish I would have gone to college. Like, again, comparison is just like such a thief. And yes. And so I think that and the thief of intuition. I think the more you compare, the less you're able to actually be on your own path and trust it and listen to that. And the amount of rabbit holes I'm invited down, because also I like to melt it down to the fact that society and the media and who we are getting these unrealistic timelines, or they're tricking us, really. Their goal is to make money. So are they going to make more money by telling us that we're like old, fat, and ugly, and we need to buy all these things to be less of those? Or are they going to make money if they say, hey girl, you're good, don't even worry about it? Obviously it's the former. And so I really try, to your point, like, I feel healthier in every aspect of my life. Like I've always prioritized physical movement, but I'm actually at a place now where I'm not like killing myself to look a certain way and working out for 1 billion hours a day and doing these crazy things. I'm like softer about it, and I'm strong, and I feel fierce and great. So I'm like and then mentally, I'm like worlds away from where I was when I, quote, should have been, barefoot with a baby on my hip. And so I just think that it's like important to stay grounded in where we are. And then anytime we're invited to the tricks of the media or of whatever it may be, like remembering what their MO is, and it's to get our money. So it's like, if we can at least just start to see it like that, there's a little bit of a light bulb of like, oh, they're lying to us, And as women, we've never been like healthier, more educated, aging better, in a way of just like, we have so many tools now that like 30s and 40s and 50s now are decades beyond what they were before. And so I just think that we have to keep that in mind.
Just a funny side note with this, I work with Mariska Hargitay, and she's 60. She just turned 61, and she is like my favorite example of somebody whose life, like the age is just not a thing. Like, she looks incredible. She's at like the pinnacle of her career. She's directing movies. She has 3 kids. Like, and I'm like, okay, I'm good too. I'm good. Like, she reminds me all the time. She's like, you're good. Like, your time is good. And yeah, it's all what you make it. Like, and other people also want to project their own insecurities on you too, right? Along with the media, like telling you, trying to sell you a certain belief system. It's like people who are older are going to say like, well, you're past your prime now, because that's how they feel about themselves. A lot of it is projection.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think it really is like, again, where attention goes, energy flows. Like, what you're looking at, or is that the right other way around? However it is, like, what you focus on, you find. And so at the end of the day, I just think that like, who are you using as your expanders in life? Who are you looking to say like, my subconscious is believing like this is possible? Because I'm looking at this woman who's like never been fiercer, also never given less fucks, because she's not 20 and trying to like people please everyone anymore. And so what freedom to be able to like be like hot and funny and smart and amazing and active, and also like really in your own lane of what you're wanting to be doing. And I was at a business conference maybe a year or 2 ago, and Barbara Corcoran was talking from Shark Tank, and the founder of the company that I used to work for went to school with her son. And so they knew each other, and he was like chatting about it, and everything sounded very normal of like, oh yeah, she was great. And we like went to their house. Like, he didn't say anything like she was so old as a mom, nothing. And then in her talk, it was like speaking toward the women and like women in leadership and all this. She told us that she had her first child at 46 years old via IVF. And I just remember like everything about her speech was amazing. But in that moment, I was sitting there and tears filled my eyes, because I was like, I'm not too late. Like, witnessing this woman that is like a badass in every way. And I know firsthand somebody that grew up with her child, and the first thing John said about it wasn't like, oh yeah, he's his mom's 1 billion years old and that was really weird for us. It was like, we loved going to their house. She's amazing, she's great. There was just it wasn't even noted. And it's like, it's only a big deal if we make it a big deal, or we decide it's a big deal. And so I think like that for me was so expansive too, because I was looking at her and never been cooler, greater, more amazing in all of these ways. And I mean, she's like in her 70s at this point, and you'd never know. I mean, it really is a mindset in so many ways too.
Yeah, your mindset's everything. And I don't think I knew how intense it like played a factor in success. And then like it really is like, you get your mind right and you can have everything you want.
Yeah. And it's constant practice. You know, there are moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I have everything figured out. And then 14 seconds later, I'm like, everything is a mess. And like, I have nothing figured out. And that is kind of the human experience of being able to grow. And then even looking back at things, and I'm like, that girl that I was a year ago, I don't know her. Like, what was she doing? And yet, like, that is the beauty of being able to grow and like giving yourself permission to change, giving yourself permission to change your mind or your beliefs or your ideas about things, and like not trying to hold yourself in some purgatory of like, this is how it always has to be. I think it's the more we know, the better we can do, and we can make different decisions. And yeah.
I want to live as many lives in this one lifetime as I can. Like, that's awesome. Like the chance, the ability to be whatever you want, reinvent yourself over and over, however often you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you familiar with the attachment styles? Like anxious, avoidant, and like a secure, or kind of like leaning more toward, I guess my question was going to be kind of relationally in your past. You noted spinning me like a little more anxious. Would you say in like intimate relationships or like past partners, like you kind of gravitated more toward like the anxious, like sort of lean in, or the avoidant, like I like when things kind of get hard or weird, I just want to like jump ship?
Within a relationship, like how I behave in the relationship, you know, it's interesting. I think like old me was like run for the hills, like when things would get hard. And now obviously I've been with my husband for, I think, 15 years. And we've had some challenges. Like we've been through it, like lost parents on both sides of it, cancer, like all of the things, right? And we have to lean in because you have to keep choosing. We keep choosing each other in the relationship. So it's like you do have to lean into the difficulty of it. And that has been something that I've learned how to do. There are days, of course, I want to run and I want to avoid because my plate feels too full, but he's better at that than I am. Like he's better at saying we need to come together and talk about things. And he's probably the reason we've held a relationship together for this long, is he's just better at it. He's better at it.
Has there been things in some of the struggles you faced, or even just like normal day-to-day things that the two of you have found, almost like little hacks or things that work really well for you that could be helpful for others to hear, just in regards to like navigating conflict or, you know, anything like that?
Like we're in a different situation now in our marriage and our lifestyle because David left his career and is working full-time in the business. So, you know, and we're in an apartment. And right now I'm on hiatus from my day job. So it's like COVID, like all over again, except he worked through COVID. So we didn't even have that like experience everybody else did. We are spending so much time together. And I've realized like, you really have to, when all of your interests are combined and like everything is just all meshed together, you really have to like find that space for yourself. Like, I think he would prefer to do everything with me. Like, let's go to the gym together right now. Let's do this right now. And I'm like, we got to have that space. Like for me and my mental health, I need that. So keeping your identity, like mostly like separate, the things that you enjoy, doing the things you love, and then coming together over the things, you know, that you have to, working together, etc. Yeah, I would say that's a really important part, like just maintaining yourself within the relationship.
Yeah.
And, like taking care of yourself, you know?
Yes. I think that so often, especially again, as women in society, it's like the biggest gold star we receive is like, were you chosen by a man? Like, did you get chosen by a man? And I think that the more that you can still ensure that you're on center stage in your life, it's not selfish. It's not, you still allow other people to be on the stage of your life. But so often we just remove ourselves from center stage. And so our centerpiece of our world is this human being that like, they have their own thoughts and beliefs and feelings and things they're going to do. And also, what pressure does that put on someone that it's like, you are now everything to me? And so I think I've just seen time and time again, exactly as you said, the more you can maintain your own identity and even like have things that you do enjoy outside of your partnership and that you do, whether it's solo to recharge and you need that self-care time, or whether it's like with friends or hobbies or whatever, it also then just like brings a whole person to the relationship dynamic, and you have things to talk about and you have things to share, you know? Yes. So I think think
Yes.
that's like such a good reminder to anyone listening of just whether you're single and searching and maybe in an open space of receiving a relationship, or whether you are already in partnership, like ways that you can continue to like pour into your own cup and ensure that you're at least like somewhere on that main stage of your life and not neglecting it to always be showing up for someone else.
Yeah. You know, I think part of my trauma is that like I always feel like the other shoe's gonna fall off. Like I don't know if that will ever go away, but like I always felt like maintaining myself, making sure I'm strong. Like God forbid anything happens to him or to me, like I'm good. And I do that in motherhood though too. It's like I think I'm not into martyrdom, like period. I really, really believe in like maintaining this throughout any type of relationship, motherhood or partnership.
I think that is such a good example too for your son, because we are often surrounded by like the mom that sacrificed everything and she never even took a shower for the first 6 years of my life, and like she never missed a thing, and she, you know, and it's like, or the SNL skit of like she gets a robe for Christmas but does everything for everyone else and all of that, you know. And I just think that it's so beautiful to interact with women that like aren't interested in playing that role, because it actually just sets one, if you're raising a son that's going to be a man someday, to believe that like the women in his life are just going to do everything for him all the time, and like he's going to go from his like mommy's home to his wife's home and just hope that it all is taken care of for him. And so I think that to set the example of like, I'm also a whole human and I have needs, and there's moments that like I would love to play with you and do that with you. I'm going to go take a bath first, or I need to go take some time for myself, and then let's do this. It's like, what an example then. And giving the people in our life permission to say like, wait, I can do that. I can say that I need some time for myself. And it sets example for other adults and people in our life that are also kind of observing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to create the boundaries.
Yeah.
They're hard, but you have to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what's kind of next for you when it comes to City Mouse, which by the way, I will link. They're the most beautiful, stunning bags I've ever seen. They're so chic and like fashionable. And then the little front flap that you can put like wipes or anything in. I don't have a kid. I will someday, and I'll be adorned with City Mouse bags. But even just like with my dog or myself, I'm like, I'm a mess. I need access, and to have it in such a chic way. Like, it was that kind of the initial design idea you had, or did it evolve a bit as you were kind of in those prototype stages?
Yeah. Right away, like I like designer bags. Like I do like the way I feel when I carry them. It's like, you know, listen, I carry a lot of cheap things too, but it's like I do have these bags that do make me feel good and elevate an outfit. And that was the idea, because I was like, why is there a Prada diaper bag like $2,000? And like, I'm never going to use it other than it being a diaper bag. It doesn't look like a normal bag. So yeah, using like those elevated materials, making it really chic, like literally having somebody look at it that doesn't have kids and be like, oh, that's a cute bag. Like that is the goal. So, you know, I have a lot of people who use these bags that don't have kids, and like that, I feel so proud of that, because it's for everybody. It's supposed to be multifunctional. A, because why would you want to buy single-use baby items that you're never going to use again and sit at the bottom of your closet? And B, like why wouldn't you want to use it like long after when you're traveling? Like I used this bag when we went to Miami the other day, and my son's 5. Like we're using nothing more than wipes at this point, and like the wipes were coming out left and right for me, for my husband, for my son. Like it's the best.
Yeah. And it kind of continues to embody the notion that like you get to be everything. Like you don't have to be in this box of like, I'm a mom, so I'm gonna have a diaper bag with duckies all over it, and I'm gonna wear this like moo thing because like I'm not supposed to be cute or attractive or found to be, you know, desirable in this moment of my life. And instead it's like, no, as women, we get to be all of that. Like we get to be everything. And so I think that it allows you to sort of like still feel fashionable and embody that feeling, but also like be a great mom at the same time, and like have wipes for like the stranger that just spilled all over himself on the subway, or, you know, whatever. You know, I just think that it's like, it's cool to see that, and to allow, I think that for me, Red Nail Energy is obviously like kind of a simplified way of being able to embody so much confidence. I do feel more fierce when I have my Ferrari red nails. I do feel like it's something that is more of a mindset than anything else. But I think that like it's almost like dress for the job you want, or dress for the person that you want to be. And the better that I feel on the outside, it really does help me feel good on the inside too.
Oh, that's so major. And I can completely testify to that as a makeup artist. Like this has been my life's work, is seeing what happens. Even when I started in retail, putting makeup on a woman's face who maybe came in feeling kind of like about herself, and then seeing her look in the mirror and you see this joy and this confidence and this, like, there is nothing better. And like to do that for women in motherhood, a time where you are not focused on, like you said, where it's like expected that everything just goes to shit and you're just in leggings and you're covered in poop and vomit like all day long. Like that's the idea that people have of motherhood. So like, let's rewrite that.
Absolutely. And just learn to step into the ability to like celebrate yourself for the things that society says makes you conceited or stuck up or arrogant or whatever it may be. Like, I remember a really pivotal moment for me back in undergrad. I mean, this was over 10 years ago, but I had a friend that took these really beautiful photos of me, kind of like branding as photos as she was getting her photography company up and running. And she's like, hey, like, you're my friend, so it's not going to be weird if I'm like telling you to do these strange poses and like, let's just go be fairies in the hills and take these pictures. And so I did, and I'm a writer. And so I had shared this kind of like poem type narrative writing, and I used a photo of myself with it. And this was, I don't even have Facebook anymore, but this was back when I had like a Facebook writing page. And it got a little bit of traction. And I remember this woman that wrote on it and said, how narcissistic of you to post these words with a photo of yourself, immediate unfollow. And I just remember like sitting in that and then responding and saying, you have no idea how hard I've fought to feel beautiful and confident enough to post a photo of myself with these words. And I am nothing but proud. And I hope that you can do the same for yourself someday. And I hope that more women can like accept a compliment instead of like the immediate, like deflecting it or like, you know, whatever, being like, thank you. Like, I feel beautiful today too.
Yeah.
You know, what a different world to like actually receive. Like when someone's trying to hand you a compliment, it is a gift. And if we just like push it back really fast or resist it, the energetic exchange isn't really there. But if we're like, thank you for noticing that, you know, like it's just such a different experience. And so to your point of, you know, people can look at makeup or whatever it may be as like vain or whatever. And I'm like, cool, then I'm vain because I love to feel good.
Yeah. You know, more people should focus on feeling good. And like, I think all of it is tied into what we're talking about, how people don't give themselves permission to do that. And all of those things, like that comment that woman wrote is a sad, so sad, because that's how she feels about herself. We know that now, right? So, but it doesn't make it easier to hear.
Yeah.
You're getting those like reflections. Like when I get negativity spit at me like that, I know that it's coming from somebody who's hurt or who has, you know, been treated badly in their life. But I also don't need to receive that because I'm at a point where I'm receiving the good. And if you're going to give me a compliment, I am taking it. And it's a direct reflection of how I feel about myself and how I value myself, which is deeply.
Oh, 100%. And I often just view it as tests of the universe being like, I'm going to invite you to this low vibe energy. Are you going to like take the test or are you going to stay where you know you can be? And the internet is a wild place and the algorithm is wild. And there's moments where it's like, I'm on the wrong side of TikTok and I'm on the right side of TikTok, you know? And at the end of the day, I'm like, if I wouldn't take advice from these people, I'm not going to take their criticism. If I don't even know who they are because they have an avatar as a photo, like, why am I going to let this get under my skin? Again, easier said than done because people can just be like absolutely horrid and mean behind their screens.
Yeah.
But I do think it's another invitation of just like, what energetic space do you want to exist within? Because like, if you get down here with them and you're firing back and doing this whole interaction, like, is that even worth your time?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I get the anger part of me too that wants to like be drugged into that exchange, but it's like you're never going to change the way somebody thinks. It's like it's such internal. Think about how much work we've had to do to get to where we are to feel this way about ourselves, and it's like those people don't want to do the work, and like you're not gonna make them all of a sudden want to do it.
Right, exactly.
Useless.
It's so true. Well, before we close our conversation, I would love to know what your personal version of Red Nail Energy is.
Oh gosh. Like in terms of a physical thing, or is it just
anything? Like just the thing. It's either my example is always like either something that allows you to feel like you could walk into any room, make eye contact with anyone, take up space, like embody the truest version of yourself. And so that could be a mindset, a practice, you know, it could be something that you're wearing, if anything in the world, but that like everyone's version is always so different. So I love to hear like how you feel the most confident as you.
Oh my gosh. I feel the most confident as myself when I am completely in alignment with what I'm doing. And thankfully that's where I am in life right now. And so that's how I tend to show up every single day.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's so good. And then before we close too, is there anything like intuitive or especially for people listening that may feel like their timeline is up and they've missed the ship has sailed without them, any words you'd like to leave with them?
Listen, the one thing I'm going to say, and this is an important thing, and I would say, please, if you want to wait to have children, get your fertility checked. And if you're able to financially freeze your eggs, that is a huge part of the confidence in waiting to make that decision, right? So that's just my science part. But secondly, just trust yourself. Their life is longer than you think. Everybody says life is short, but life is long if you're living it right. And there's plenty of time.
Yeah, that's such an important reminder. And I think it's such a great juxtaposition to that notion of like, life is so short. Instead, it's like, but every single day you get the chance to live each day how you choose to live it. And you can always change your mind and you can live it differently tomorrow if you want to. And so I appreciate the work you do so much and your willingness to share your own kind of experiences and struggles and things that you faced, because I think that we're all at the end of the day kind of walking each other home. And so I just appreciate you, and I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. We barely got to talk about business, so I'd love to have another one where we really grind for entrepreneurship.
Well, this is my way of talking. I love these types of conversations, so I'm thrilled. Yeah.
I loved it so much. And I will link in the show notes for all listeners if you'd like to follow Alex, if you'd like to check out the City Mouse bags, which please do because they're amazing, and any way that you can connect with her if you would like to do so. And as always, you are so seen and loved. You are right on time, and life is longer than you think. So make sure you are living one that you are proud of, and we will catch you on the next episode.